The Biden administration also renewed a moratorium on evicting tenants who've been unable to pay their rent or mortgage due to the COVID pandemic. It's interesting to note that the Oklahoma Commerce Department actually wanted to see that deadline come and go, ending the moratorium. O.N.R's Rory Taylor explains why and what's next for the thousands of Oklahomans who fear losing their place to live.
We want what is good for the economic stability of the entire state. And that means people staying in their homes, and it means people being caught up on bills, both renters and landlords.
Last March, the CARES Act included a 120-day moratorium on evictions, as well as a significant amount of money to help with rent relief and eviction prevention. After that moratorium ended, the CDC instated a new one in September, and that has now been extended through March 31st.
In the early part of the pandemic, I was getting calls from individual renters who were concerned about falling behind on the rent. But in the past month, I've had more calls from landlords than I have renters who are concerned not only for their own residents, but they're concerned for themselves paying the bills.
The state and City of Oklahoma City and Oklahoma County each got CARES funds originally to do eviction prevention. When the moratorium went into effect, September 4th, the CDC moratorium, those funds could be repurposed to do rental assistance instead of eviction prevention, because even while there's a moratorium, if you're not able to pay your rent, those expenses continue to pile up and pile up and pile up.
Dan Strawn, executive director of the Homeless Alliance in Oklahoma City, says that of the different funding channels that were created, rent assistance has become the most vital.
The community cares partnership that was doing those originally eviction prevention and then utility and rental assistance and job training, they had from July till mid-December 18,000 applications for rental assistance. And that's not individuals, that's households. So, maybe 60,000 individuals applying for that assistance.
And that's just in the Oklahoma County area.
We know that there have been upwards of 20,000 evictions that have been filed since the beginning of the pandemic, and half of those have moved forward because a lot of people have exercised their rights and protections under the eviction moratorium. But we also know that the U.S. Census Bureau estimates more than 100,000 Oklahoma households are behind on rent,
which Votes says puts the economic impact in at least tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds. Fortunately, there have been many channels for rent assistance.
Our office at the Department of Commerce administers multiple lines of funding from multiple federal sources for very similar purposes, but they each have slightly different audiences, slightly different clientele, and slightly different requirements.
And while many of those lines of funding are flowing to help, the moratorium has complicated the Department of Commerce's ability to use one major line of funding, stopping up nearly $17 million of aid.
The money that you're asking about right now is specifically for homeless prevention, and it is administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. And for homeless prevention, we focus exclusively on people who are literally homeless and people who are in imminent danger of becoming homeless.
While the moratorium stands, no one qualifies as being in imminent danger of becoming homeless, which means the $17 million of federal HUD money is out of reach for many who could use the help.
While the moratorium is in effect, we're not able to pay bills for those who might be at risk of homelessness. So we are going to focus, at least for the moment, we're going to focus on those who are literally homeless with that $17 million. If and when the moratorium expires, we can redirect resources back to people who are at risk of homelessness.
The Oklahoma City Homeless Alliance says it would be better for the federal government to change the rules for the funds. But in the meantime, renters in trouble should reach out for help.
So the very best way is to call 211, and there you will actually talk to a human being, and that human being will walk you right through the process.
Number one, talk to your landlord and work out a relationship with them. Number 2, contact your local community action agency. And number 3, if you are served with an eviction notice, know your rights under the CDC's eviction moratorium.
Those rights can be accessed in a 2-page document available on the CDC website or by calling 211. Rory Taylor, the Oklahoma News Report.
Rory, thanks. And that declaration of rights under the CDC's moratorium needs to be filled out by tenants facing eviction and turned over to their landlord to invoke the moratorium's full protections.